It's time now for a little bit of this. The latest episode of How to Win the World Cup is available for you now. Matt Ford, Jacob Hawley are taking a look at the role of goalkeepers with former USA keeper Brad Friedel. So they discuss the importance of penalties in this episode in a World Cup campaign, and Friedel explains why he never got nervous facing a spot kick.
I used to watch the player right when the penalty was called to go see what their reaction was. And you could tell how nervous they were or not. You know, if you Shearer gets the ball, he's not nervous. Fowler got the ball, he's not nervous. Drogba got the ball, he's not nervous. Lamb, you could just tell. Van Nistelrooy's, all those guys. But there were a lot of players that you could tell that if they get the ball, and then you could actually like fake you were going one way, go back to the center, and then they'll probably go the other way because they're so nervous. They're all their creativity evaporated. But I just took it as no pressure on goalkeepers whatsoever.
Former USA keeper Brad Friedel there. By the way, you can listen to this episode in full on talkSPORT Daily Podcast, available now on the talkSPORT app. Cass, getting the keeper's perspective of it all, considering that's where it could be won or lost in a penalty shootout, is a new way of looking at it, I guess.
Yeah, look, the reason why he's saying there's no pressure on the keeper is because everyone expects every person to score, which is not factually even close. You know, I laugh when if you're sitting with a group of people and we're all sitting around and waiting for the penalty shootout, and everyone that goes up, someone's going to say he's going to miss. You know, there's always someone out of the group that will say that, and it will go for it. And of course, eventually, someone will miss, and you go, "I told you so," and you're like, "Yeah, right." It's always on the taker, the pressure. And if you go back through World Cups and how successful teams have been, there's been some incredible goalkeepers that have won the World Cup, played big parts. You know, whether it's Dino Zoff, whether it's Casillas with Spain in 2010. And I've written down a few here. Barthez in 98, Dino Zoff in 82, Banks in 66, Boffin in 2006, Sepp Maier in 74. You know, these are all legendary names, because goalkeepers play a big part, because now also penalty shootouts are big. There's very few World Cup teams that have won it that haven't been involved in a penalty shootout. I know France didn't have a penalty shootout in 98 because they beat Paraguay 1-0 in extra time, but never had a penalty shootout in the whole tournament. But it's quite rare. Most teams do have, like England experienced in the Euros and have experienced in World Cups. Most teams do have it.
How important is it then for players in a squad to trust the goalkeeper, and how much does that get discussed?
Well, you know because you practice penalties and your goalkeeper's getting goal. You know, certain goalkeepers better at saving penalties than others. That's why we've seen remember the Netherlands changed its goalkeeper. I think that was the African world in Africa.
Tim Krul, wasn't it?
Yeah, and changed the keeper. You know, that's nearly impossible. You'd never think of doing that, but I would understand if he is by far the outstanding goalkeeper against penalties. It's a tough one. Look, winning the World Cup is, sometimes it's a little bit of fortune, and that fortune can be, you can have Maradona as the number 10. In 86, the best number 10 in the world won the World Cup. And you could probably say the same as Zidane in 98, that he was the best number 10 around. I was lucky enough to meet Emi Jackie 3 months before, because his son played for Nancy when I was at Nancy. And I sat in the dressing room and he literally dissected his whole idea about how France could win the World Cup with this young talent, also really experienced players, technically very strong, but had the best number 10 in the world. And we're going to utilise that in Zidane.
Yeah.
And they won the World Cup. Now, it doesn't always pan out that way. You can have great sides. The 82 Brazilian team, was one of the best teams or recognised teams ever. Didn't get close to winning the World Cup, although they had a great team. So you're going to come up against obstacles that... this is why I think England have got a really good chance, because Pickford's done really well for England. If he has an outstanding tournament, you need your keeper. Think of Martinez with Argentina in Qatar. Yeah. Had an outstanding tournament. Yeah. You know, really, really played well. And I think you need your keeper to be absolutely, of any position. Of course, everyone's important. But if your goalkeeper pulls up trees in the tournament...
And that's what Brad Friedel was talking about in the episode as well, like having that trust of the outfield players as well as the keeper if it does go to a penalty shootout. But Jordan Pickford, I mean, he seems really trustworthy, you know.
Well, he's very confident in himself.
Yeah.
And there are, there's long debates, and he probably wouldn't make the top list of best goalkeepers in the Premier League, as in the top three, there would be others like Peter Schmeichel would be, certainly.
And he's been so loyal to Everton. He just got a new contract. But you wondered if he could have done it at a club, say, in the top.
Yeah, I mean, he's been really good for Everton. Absolutely sensational. He wouldn't have kept his position for so long if he hadn't been. But I go back. Again, going back to goalkeepers, Barthez in '98, he had a really good World Cup.
Yeah.
And again, a keeper that produced saves. He was lucky enough to have in front of him an incredible team as well. People like Desailly, Leboeuf, Roland Blanc. They had some great players. Yeah, the French team at that time.
Yeah, Pickford. I mean, if they win the World Cup, he'll go down as the
well, Gordon Banks is the only one
Everton.
What a keeper he was, Gordon Banks.
Yeah.
He was an outstanding goalkeeper, and wasn't the biggest, a bit like Jordan Pickford, wasn't the biggest, but was unbelievably great with his feet at getting across the goal and agility. He was one of the best that's ever been.
It's a really good discussion, really good insight as well from Brad Friedel, the former USA keeper, with Matt Ford and Jacob Hawley on how to win the World Cup. We've got every game, every bit of the action live from the US, Mexico and Canada this summer. We're very much so looking forward to, as well you. But how important is Jordan Pickford and all of that? And how important is it to trust the keeper? You can listen to it now, How to Win the World Cup, available from your favourite podcast provider. You're listening to The Weekend Breakfast.